Late 1950s, Emerson portable black and white television. There were a lot of these made. RCA made them, GE made them, Hot Point, Emerson. Yeah, Zenith did make this style of metal set. I always kind of called these the Chevy Bel Air TVs because they have the kind of pastel. They're all metal. They kind of look like stamped car panels, the way they're put together. They kind of have that pastel coloring. They had the chrome. So they kind of look like a 50s American car to me. And this was dropped off by a local younger collector. He's brought me 2 or 3 things I've made videos on, and the last one was a 7-inch Admiral set that had me on suicide watch for a few days, and it turned out to be silver mica disease in one of the tuner IF cans was creating noise. A lot of people saw that video. That one really drove me crazy. Anyway, this is probably going to be more of a resurrection. This thing's pretty beat down. All the knobs are missing. The handle's been making a nice circular thing in the top here. All the knobs are missing. Horizontal, vertical brightness. Tuning. Radio, TV, phono, television. Does this have a radio in it? I wonder what this was for. Was this UHF or something else? Did this have UHF? Emerson television and radio. Looks like a lot of the vacuum bulbs are missing. A lot of them. DQ6. It's weird how some of them are in there. That's an original Emerson down there. That one says. Now, Emerson was not known to be a high quality brand. See, there's 2 back there I see that are still in there. The ones are missing out of the tuner. What's this? Oh, that is like an AM tuning capacitor. So this must have a separate AM radio in it. Yeah, Emerson, these things were not known to be great quality. I don't think any of them were. Look at the yoke is coming apart. The plastic yoke is coming apart. We just need not touch that. Now, when I see something like this, I automatically think, well, it was trashed because probably it has a dead CRT in it. That would be my guess. Something failed that rendered it not viable to fix, and it was just discarded. I mean, it could be a case where the kids just wanted to pull the tubes out and pop them on the sidewalk, but it looks high hour. Obviously, here we have a repair, those 2 resistors. And we got some cut wires just hanging there. This looks like it's possibly broken solders, or maybe, hopefully it's not broken. It looks pretty dirty, like it's high use. A lot of these style sets ended up in kitchens, I think, so they got a lot of grease in them. Look at that. That looks very dirty, very greasy. Original capacitor. What's this? I wonder what this 1/4 inch is here for. And then it's got an RCA input, looks like for the phono. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is test the CRT in this, and this could end up being a very, very short video. Because CRT went dead, they yanked the tubes and threw it out. All of this style metal cabinet set that I've seen, they're all on the more budget side. They're all series string. They use a hot chassis, and you can see these plastic insulators down here that they use to insulate the hot line coupled chassis from the metal can. And it's the same thing. The knobs that you touch are the insulation from the hot chassis. So these things probably would not be legal today. I give this a very, very low probability of being good, but you never assume anything. That's why we test. Just do right at 6.3 volts there. Well, it's lighting up. Get you out of the reflection here. Okay. We don't have any leakage lights come on. Okay. Ooh. Really? There's already a little cutoff, and it hasn't even baked at all. That's a good sign. Let's set it there, and then we'll go to test. Wow! Really? Really? That's without cooking or baking or anything. That almost appears to be a low hour, or I'd say medium hour CRT. Let's see, is it the original? It is the original. And it tests that good. That's incredible. Well, that adds another layer of mystery into this thing. Usually people will not condemn something that doesn't have a major issue. You usually don't see a vehicle in the wrecking yard that was put there just because a new model came out. I mean, usually people don't just, trash something unless something major happens that renders it unusable or not fixable. I mean, anything's possible. It's possible grandma died and it got put in the garage and the grandkids tore it apart and pulled these cool looking things out. But we need to do more investigation before we decide to resurrect this or not. And what are the things that could really render this thing not worth fixing? Number one would be the CRT, but that checks out very good. Number two might be the flyback if it was unobtainable or too expensive. Number three could be like a vertical output or the yoke. I mean, the yoke does look pretty crusty. The plastic is all falling apart, but that doesn't necessarily mean the coils are shorted. Trying to see if there's any green. I don't see any green. This thing has really been decommissioned for a long time. I mean, you look at the amount of dust on all of these tube sockets. It's I think what we need to do, and I'm trying to figure out, because the yoke, I don't want to really touch this yoke. The yoke is going to be a problem. This this plastic just turns into to dust. I mean, it literally just turns into... But I don't know what to do about that because it's hardwired in and you have to pull it out. You have to pull the ion magnet off and pull the yoke out to pull the chassis out. And I really want to test the flyback and maybe use the B&K 1077 to test the horizontal section before we move forward with it. I'd like to test all the critical systems and verify there's no problem before I commit to trying to find all these tubes and resurrect this thing. I usually don't do this, but because this is all disintegrating, I'm taking pictures and marking everything. Yeah, this thing is just... If I could keep this in one piece, because this is the sintering magnets. If I could keep that in one piece, I'd... Yeah, this is... There's not much left here, is there? This was not like this when the TV was put to rest. This has happened, this deterioration of this type of plastic has happened since that time. The yoke was in good shape when this thing was retired. Before I pull the chassis out of this, let me see if I can find the SAM's service date on it. I'm going to try these numbers. 1268-347. It looks like that's about all there is. It's too bad the back is missing. Okay, there is a match for Emerson to 1268, and it looks like it's from about 58, 59. So I'm going to pull that schematic out, and I'll scan it with my new scanner and get it loaded into the phone. And then we'll go from there. It does look like it's going to be the right set. So this is a model chassis 1268. I dug the Sam's Photo Fact out, and the set is from... Well, this is dated February of 1958, so we'll just say it's a 57, 58 set. That's what it looked like with all the knobs on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan it with the book scanner they sent me to review. This thing's pretty awesome. You've probably seen the video on it. And I'm going to just scan the whole thing to a PDF. That way I can put it on my phone, because this looks like it's going to be a really nasty, dirty resurrection. This is how these things come apart, very difficultly. A lot of sheet metal interference. Come on, baby. Oh, crap. The CRT's gonna fall out? No, don't do this to me. The hell? Roll of duct tape, that's always a good sign. Oh, here's a... Sometimes you find... Wow, look at how green those pins are. 12BY7, that's like a video tube, I think. What was weird is this was coming out, like... Really? There's nothing, there's no band or anything that holds this in? I see there is a band up there, but it looks like this thing was dropped because the bottom's all mashed in, and maybe this tube popped out of the band. I don't know how well you can see this, but there literally is no discoloration to the rear part of that gun assembly in the CRT, so that would go along with the pattern I've seen on this. But it is an Emerson branded tube. Or is it a replacement? Here's the chassis. This is pretty poor condition. This is right up there with some of those desert resurrections. Here's the AM radio. And this is the AMIF. So the AM converter would go there. There's an oscillator coil for the AM. And this has those lovely automatic brand IF transformers that always have the silver mica disease in them. The ones that just unsnap with the plastic tabs at the top. I'd like to get in here. And I can tell just by looking at it, this flyback looks great. There's no wax loss. Not that doesn't mean there's not a problem, but it looks beautiful. I think we need to electrically test it though before we move forward. The yoke looks good. What I'm looking for is green corrosion on these coils, and I don't see any. Again, that doesn't mean it's not electrically shorted, but why was this TV condemned? These little mushroom-looking coils or something different. I'm not used to seeing those in black and white TVs. There's 3 of them here. They look like little mushrooms. And this thing has just got all the wrong capacitors in it. I mean, it's got these Black Beauty bumblebee things which crack and leak and short. It's got wax capacitors all over the place. It's got the really crappy, low quality electrolytics. This thing is literally the opposite of Zenith. It's the opposite. They source the lowest quality components. Maybe I could learn to talk. Look at this. A coil with a brass slug screwed into it. No form, just a coil with a brass slug screwed into it. Of course, the cover's been removed on the tuner. Crappy circuit boards. Look at that. How fast and how cheap can you make it? And I think this was definitely a kitchen set because it's grease. This is grease. I need to blow this thing off. This is beyond even what I can. I mean, this is like cooking grease. Probably manteca. And these wires come over and go to this 1/4 inch connector, which looks like a switching 1/4 inch connector. So these must be the speaker. Oh, the speaker went right there on these 2 pegs. So someone Klinko-twinkulated the speaker, like it was a Macy's or something. Took a picture of the tube chart that's in there. And the first thing I notice is the horizontal output should be a 25DN6, 25CD6. And it has a 12DQ6 in it. That's not going to work. 12-volt tube is not going to work in place of a 25-volt tube in a series string. It'll never get hot enough. The other thing, here's the tuner, the AM radio, and it uses a 3BE6, 3BA6, which in an All-American 5 would be a 12BE6, 12BA6. That's kind of interesting. And if you look here, the 2 radio filaments, which total 6 volts, are, when you're watching the TV, they're bypassed. So they're not lit. So when you turn the set to AM radio, it opens up that bypass. The SAM shows it better. So when you turn the set to AM radio, it removes that short and allows those 2 filaments to go into the circuit and warm up, which drops the filament voltage well, 6 volts across the whole thing, which is, what, like 5%? So you're still, if you're listening to the AM radio, you're still running the heaters on all the other tubes. And you can see how much dust is on that, like it's been in there a long, long time. Also, this tube we found right here is the video output tube, which goes in there, which would mean those little mushroom things are peaking coils. 25DN6, which is what should be in here, is a 25 volt 600 milliamp. Well, 12DQ6 is 12 volts at 600 milliamps also, so it's the same current. I don't think it would get hot enough though. I don't know, I have to think about that. That would basically dump another 12 volts shared across the whole filament string. Yeah, I don't even think that's relevant because these two tubes are totally different. Look at the cathode on one is connected to pin 8, and the cathode on the other is connected to pin 3. They're not even close to the same unless they rewired this, which it's possible. Maybe this also looks bodged on. This capacitor, that doesn't look, I mean, I know Emerson wasn't that great a quality, but that looks after. Let me look at the filament dropper resistor. So for a filament dropper, this originally used a 1 ohm 1 watt. That would just probably be a fusible. I need to look at that and see where that is in this set. So this is R100 right here, which would be that. And that should be 1 ohm, and it looks like they upped it from 1 ohm to 3.9 times 2, so like 8 ohms. So I got to lift this up and see if they reconfigured the wiring on the bottom of this tube. So we go to our DigiKey Ohms law calculator here, because we're too stupid to do it in our head or on paper. So current is 600 milliamps, so we put 600 in there. And resistance, they basically took that from 1 ohm up to 3.9 ohms. So we're going to say 7 ohms. And then we hit calculate. So the added resistance they had would have added an additional 4.2 volts drop when they really needed to drop 12.6 volts. So let's reset this and see what value should have been in there. So 12 volts at 0.6. Let's see what the resistance should have been. So they should have upped that to a 20 ohm resistor, which at 7.2 watts. So see, that's essentially the same. The 25 volt tube would have had 7.2 watts more dissipation in its filament than the 12 volt tube. So to do this right, we need to go with a 10 watt or maybe a 15 or 25 watt for some headroom 20 ohm resistor. It certainly looks like they did. See these brown wires? Those are, you can tell those were added on. See, these resistors here were probably originally soldered to that pin right there. See if there's a picture of this in the photo fax. Well, there is no picture of the bottom in the photo fax, but I can tell you this. These resistors are not original. The factory did not parallel 2 resistors and then have all these different sizes, and this is, somebody did not have the appropriate tube to fix this. They had a different tube, and I guess the TV wasn't worth the cost of the tube, so they put a tube they had in there and reconfigured everything. Increased the resistors, the filament dropping resistors, and reconfigured the base. So were they using the same damper? I don't know, going from a 12 volt tube to a 25 volt tube, because the 25 volt tube at 600 milliamps is a lot higher wattage than, it's double the wattage of 12 volt at 600 milliamps. So you would think that the 25 volt tube would have double the plate dissipation of the 12 volt tube, because it has double the amount of power going into the cathode heater. Well, this is interesting. The plate dissipation of the 12 volt tube is 18 watts, and the plate dissipation of the 25 volt tube is 15 watts. So what's the difference here? The 12 volt tube looks all around like a heavy duty tube, which doesn't quite make sense to me, but okay. So the other one was just a big filament burner heat generating nothing then, the 25. So maybe that was an upgrade. Check this out. It's starting to all make more sense now. See this right here? That's the horizontal output tube. See that thing that looks like an ion trap magnet around the horizontal output tube? And look at this. See it? There's a line to it that says M10. If we come down here to miscellaneous, M10, magnet, Barkhausen eliminator. I'm not going to go into a discussion on what Barkhausen oscillations are in a horizontal output tube. We'll save that for a non-resurrection, but no wonder why. It's starting to make sense. No wonder why they changed out that tube for the 12 DQ6. Well, this is a very interesting situation here. This is a total anomaly to have a strong picture tube yet be such an abandoned, left for dead, stripped out set. Speaker ripped off, tubes missing. This re-engineering thing of the horizontal output tube, that is very interesting. I mean, how much effort, how much could that tube have cost? I mean, it's probably $10 or $12, but I guess that was like $50 or $60 back in the 60s. You know, but all that effort to re-engineer something, whatever. Maybe it was just a crappy tube, that 25 volt tube, and there was a... Oh, the surprises just keep on coming here. Oh, I get it. So the fuse blew, so they just took and stretched the hell out of the spring to make it a fuse. So basically there is no fuse anymore, or is this, did they hand make this? Oh, this must have been one of those fuses that had this end right here was built in as part of the fuse. And the fuse blew and they didn't have one, so they just coiled up a piece of wire and put some solder on it. So it's essentially a bypassed fuse. Boy, the fun just doesn't stop with this thing. What will we find next? Should have just put a 22 Magnum in there. Just put a 22 Magnum and just shoved it down in there. Continuing on with the examination, and I know this is boring. Selenium rectifier, we should look and see if that's bridged. But it looks like it just comes in through a rectifier. We have two filters with a choke, and then we have the B plus source. So there's not... This right here must be the two main electrolytics. See, we got a 250 and a 50 here. We're looking for two 250s. This is just like the cheapest ass. These are the cheapest capacitors money could buy. The selenium looks all original. They didn't parallel a silicon diode. I want to take a look at, since that fuse was obviously blown, I want to take a look at this R99. Let's see if we can find that. Here's R99. I guess that could be original. Looks like it has a factory part number on it maybe. But all these capacitors, all these wax capacitors, I don't care if they're in green or bumblebee or just plain wax, they're all going to have to eventually go. The next step is going to be to take and clean this up with some compressed air and a paintbrush and try and get all of this disintegrated yolk powder off of here, and then maybe try and tape that yolk up a little bit and, you know, shield or protect those rivets that are going to have high voltage pulses on them. And then try and start finding the tubes. I'd really actually kind of like to see this work, especially the AM radio part of it. I don't know why. It's just kind of cool to have an AM radio with 3-volt tubes in it, an All-American 5 with 3-volt tubes. All the half-ass repairs with the missing tubes and missing knobs, but then having a strong CRT really make this intriguing, and I think we really need to get to the bottom of this like it was in a Senate meeting room. Don't want to ruin my mushrooms. I love my little mushrooms. Don't you love your little mushrooms? I spoke with the owner of the set, and he said that he picked this up from a antique shop for $35, and it was definitely worth that. And he actually has some of the knobs at home. So here's what I'm thinking about doing: breaking this video into 3 parts. We'll do this part, the analysis. We'll do part 2, fixing the AM radio, which is this. And I really suspect that these IF cans are going to have silver mica disease. These are these automatic style. They're made by Automatic. They have the little plastic tabs that stick through right here at the top, and they have these type of clips. These things always are bad, and especially when you have all this rust and you can tell it was in a damp environment. There's about 90% chance this is going to need silver mica surgery. Will we do it in part 2? Hell yeah, I want to see this thing work. This is a bit of an interesting AM radio because it actually uses the TV antenna for the AM radio. You notice it doesn't have a big loop coil. These are the 2 antenna coils right here for the AM radio. So I think we'll do part 1 and we'll do part 2. We'll do the AM radio. Another fun fact about this is a 600 milliamp filament string. And I think most All-American 5 radios are 150. I don't know, let's look that up. Yeah, if we just take a 50C5, it's 150 milliamps. So this thing literally has like 65, 70 watts of filament heater waste just for the AM radio portion. This would not fit into the modern green agenda, that's for sure. So just to have the AM radio on, you're blowing 65 watts just in these. And that's why these are 3-volt tubes. Now I have been searching out the tubes, and I like to just clean the pins with a wire brush, just, you know, like this. Just take your time and get these pins, because these were all corroded. So I think we'll test these real quick. And the way this works is you have your AM converter, your AMIF, then it has, instead of a 12AV6, which is a combination detector diode and first audio, it uses a germanium diode, this right here. So converter, IF, germanium diode detector, and then it uses the 5T8 triode and the 12C5 audio output for the AM radio. So it's essentially 4 tubes, but 5 tubes because it uses a solid state rectifier and a solid state detector. And he said if I could just resurrect it and get everything documented, he will recap it and get the tubes. So some of these tubes are pretty rare. The 3BA6, this is a rare tube. There's not a lot of these out there. There's not a lot of use for these. The 3BE6, I have a bunch of those. I have all these tubes. So we'll get this set up. Let's test these. Here's the first one. Kind of tired. Let's try the second one. This is the 3BA6. This is the kind of straighten the pins out there. I just dug these out of a big box of used tubes I had. An IF tube, it can probably be sort of on the tired side. Boy, this one's real tired. Okay, we'll use a CBS one. This is a 3CB6 IF amp for the TV, and it uses the same exact settings on the tester. Maybe if I push that down harder this time it'll work. There we go. Yeah, see, that's what it takes. Marginal. Interesting. Tired. They're tired. Okay. 6CG7, 6FQ7. This set uses a bunch of these. This is a very common horizontal oscillator tube that RCA and everybody used. And it was 6CG7 D6E2. D6. Oh, that's kind of loose. Worn out. E2. Isn't this fun? D6E7. Jesus, is something wrong with the tube tester? Or were these just all a bunch of duds? Guess I should be checking them for leakage and shorts too, right? Highly unlikely. Wow. Wow, that kind of sucks. Very tired. All of these are tired. Actually, wait. It says OK over 50 in the instructions. So that one still is tired. That one's only 40. Let's see this other one. See, I'm going to say these are probably okay. They'll probably work. These things can get really dead usually before they don't work. not good. Here's a supposedly new old stock 3BA6. At least it's a matching Raytheon tube and a Raytheon box. Well, it makes it into the yellow. So maybe the tube tester needs to be calibrated. I don't know. The real test is let's just get them in the set and see if it's got silver mica disease. It hardly matters if the tubes are any good, you know. The main one we're really concerned about is the converter tube. Man, these things take a long time to warm up. Yeah, tired. Well, we'll make this part 1 of the 1958 Emerson 1268 portable television radio combo unit with mushrooms. Gotta stick with those mushrooms. And we'll do the radio in the next video, whatever it takes. If I gotta do silver mica disease surgery, let's do it. They don't look that hard. They don't look that hard to get to in this thing. Part 1 analysis, Part 2 AM radio, Part 3 television resurrection over the next several months. I have a lot of other videos in the works right now, good stuff. So we'll just slowly kind of bring this thing back in 3 separate segments, sort of focusing, because fixing the radio will get the power supply working for the TV. So the next 2 videos will kind of overlink.